Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to welcome you all to reInvent 2020, which is hard to believe, but we are all virtual for this reInvent. So I'm sorry that we're not there with you in Las Vegas. My name's Teresa Carlson, and I am the Vice President of Worldwide Public Sector and Industry Business Units for AWS. And this is our global event, which is a global movement toward cloud. And believe it or not, this event shows that because we have over 500,000 people registered for this conference over the next couple of weeks. And with that, I want to thank you all for taking the time to tune in and attend our fireside chat today. I'm really very honored to welcome our very special guest, Professor Klaus Schwab, the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. Professor Schwab, it is so great to have you here with me today and everyone attending reInvent.
Teresa, it's a great pleasure to be with you because I'm really one of the admirers of Amazon and what you have achieved over the last years.
For a lot of you who I know already knows Professor Schwab, he's one of the world's most insightful leaders of our current age. Since he founded the World Economic Forum in 1971, he's really championed the idea that the modern enterprise must serve not only the shareholders, but all the stakeholders, and to achieve this long-term growth and prosperity. And this is something that we're really going to dive into today. And Professor Schwab, the idea of serving multiple stakeholders with many different needs is particularly relevant this year. And I know from my own businesses and my experiences, it's a confluence of all these issues. Before the pandemic, we were shaping the world around the fourth industrial revolution, and where digital technology would transform the industries and the economies. And this has been a profound implication on how private industries and the public sector is going to interact with the stakeholders around the world. And, of course, it's impacted large, small, governments, commercial, all. And the changes we're experiencing mean that we need to rethink the way that we teach in-demand skills and connect individuals with the jobs. And you've been speaking recently about the need for the Great Reset to help all stakeholders both reevaluate their entrenched beliefs of the pre-pandemic system and defend certain long-term values. So I want to jump in with the first question around that, which is an opportunity for reinvention. I want to talk to you about this idea of the Great Reset, which the World Economic Forum launched earlier this year. I've also had the privilege of reading your new book, which was fantastic, which focuses on this topic. Can you tell me, Professor Schwab, a little bit about the concept and why you were inspired to write the book?
Yes, we need a great reset, or you could also call it a great reinvention. If we look back, our system, which we call the capitalist system, I think has provided us with tremendous economic progress, social development. Look just at Amazon. It enabled someone like Jeff Bezos to do what he did, to create value. But the system also has shown some deficiencies. For example, there are many people who are left behind. And they are mainly left behind, by the way, because they may not have the decent work which is needed to have also a decent life. And then we see also the damage we do partially to our nature. So the pandemic has brought much more into evidence those deficiencies, and people have become more aware. So we have to do something about it. And there is now the great opportunity to formulate policies for the post-corona era. And that's what I call the Great Reset.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Professor Schwab. We've so seen this during the pandemic with our customers really needing to drive toward change, and they've acted and reacted very quickly. So I do believe that the Great Reset is on the verge for sure. Um, So you've also stressed the importance of viewing the pandemic as an opportunity to chart a course for long-term change. What are the most impactful changes that organizations can make to realize the long-term benefits?
I think companies have to reinvent themselves and have to move from shareholder capitalism to stakeholder capitalism, which means um, not only to look at short-term profits, but always to have the three P's, as I would call it, in mind, which means to achieve profits, to serve people, and to take care of the planet. This is a big, let's say, message which we get out of the pandemic. It's not just the material world. There are people, there is nature, and we have to take care of those. And by the way, COVID-19 has shown that the companies which are really committed, who are committed to this new way of capitalism, have performed better. We have many proofs have performed better compared to companies who were just out to achieve short-term advantages, short-term profit. So it's a mind shift. And it's not only moving from one concept to another one. I think this new approach of stakeholder capitalism has to be integrated into the strategies of a company. So we have to integrate, for example, in our performance measurements, not just financial criteria, but also environmental, social, and good governance metrics. We have to be aware that the new world requires much more resilience of a company because the pandemic has shown us how vulnerable we actually are as companies, but also as individuals. So we are living in a new world. It's not a new normal. Which resembles very much to what we have seen in the past. We really have to use this opportunity to reflect, to reset, and to reinvent.
I love what you talk about with resiliency, and I do think in times like this you have to be pretty critical of what you're doing and how you're doing it, and be able to experiment really quickly, fail quickly, and recover quickly. And Professor Schwab, that's what this conference is all about, really, with the new technology, with cloud computing, allowing customers to have that experimentation. And throughout COVID, I will just share, we've seen our government customers and our industry customers really move quickly because they couldn't get into their data centers. They had to have that resiliency. They had to move really quickly. And one of the things that you shared is we've talked a lot about private organizations and skills, the long term benefit. And one of the things that we've always seen at Amazon is with decades knowledge of how do you create new job skills and training. And thinking long term, we have to make sure that everyone around the world has access to those training programs, no matter what social status they are, economic background, or educational level. And today, I'm really excited to announce that for the first time, by 2025, AWS will help 29 million people grow their technical skills with free cloud computing skills training. And Professor Schwab, I'll just say that's a big thing that your team and myself, we've been working on at WEF to make sure we're looking for new ways to train and certify individuals around the world with expanded job skills. And we'll do that we'll continue to expand all the programs we have been doing, and we're going to do some of those with partnership with the World Economic Forum, which is going to be super exciting.
I first want to congratulate you, Teresa, for taking these initiatives because I feel high-tech companies like AWS have a very particular responsibility today. You have the knowledge, and it's very interesting. We have done research and we have noticed that in the research that the capabilities which we need most, and I read, number one, complex problem solving, number two, critical thinking and analysis, number four, creativity, originality, and the capability to take initiatives, and finally, particularly reinforced by COVID, resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility. And if we look at the four most, let's say, at the jobs which will be most in demand in the future, according to our research, number one, data analysts and scientists. Number two, artificial intelligence specialists. Number three, big data specialists. And number four, digital marketing and strategy specialists. So I think the profile of AWS corresponds exactly to what is needed. So it's fantastic to see how you share the capabilities and the knowledge of your company with other companies who are in need to learn more about those new capabilities. And I would nearly say we need cooperation. We need to engage companies like yours into a global skills revolution. And that's what we want to achieve together. Because the future, I used before the word capitalism, stakeholder capitalism, but sometimes I'm tempted to say the world of the future is not the world of capitalism, it's a world of talentism. Yeah. Because the most precious resource which we have are talents. And it's not anymore financial capital. Capital is always available if you have a talent which is unique.
I couldn't agree with you more. And it's very interesting because I've been here at AWS now going on my 11th year. And around the world, Professor Schwab, I've had the great honor to listen to a lot of presidents and chancellors of universities. And I push the idea that they should be working backwards from the job skills that are needed versus just, you've got to make sure students are graduating and prepared for the skills that are required. All those that you just outlined, Professor Schwab, are going to be critical. And what we're going to do with this program is continue to build on our AWS training and certification, AWS Educate. We're going to be doing Machine Learning University. We have a fiber optic fusion splicing program. And it's the skills that they're going to need. And today, fast forward, I'm seeing now these chancellors and presidents of universities now talking much more about, hey, we've got to change the way we're doing and teaching and training so that we're working backwards from those job skills that are required. Professor Schwab, the other thing that I wanted to share is that based on some of the things you just said, today Accenture, there's a new study that's going to be released today by Accenture that found that by connecting individuals to opportunities to learn, that we can create a pathway to a job with more opportunities, higher wages, accelerated growth, and less vulnerability to the sudden impact of disruptions like COVID-19. The skills that you just talked about that are in more demand, can you talk a little bit more about how you're going to see the acceleration of those as a result of COVID-19?
Yes, we need a skills revolution, but we need also an educational revolution, how we teach those skills. And here, if we look at the COVID-19 crisis, we have seen how fast things can happen if we are under pressure. What took us in terms of transformation, sometimes years can now be achieved in months, or what took us months can now be achieved in days. And when we look at this educational revolution, I think it's characterized by the digitalization of education. And if you combine it with artificial intelligence, we can have a kind of commoditization, which means everybody has access. But we can have also, with artificial intelligence, a individualization of education. So I see fantastic new opportunities in education by combining digitalization with artificial intelligence. And that will lead to a situation where not only a selected elite, if I may say so, has access to education, but everybody can have access to education. But it is the duty and the obligation of companies to provide the necessary platforms. And then I think everybody has it in his or her own hands to use those platforms to acquire the skills which are needed in the future.
So true. And the impact of training can be profound in helping these workers stay competitive, especially post pandemic, and trying to jumpstart into a new career. And we know the pandemic has been especially hard on women, females around the world who had to really pivot what they're doing. I wanted to give just a couple of Accenture's new study points on their studies called Upskilling for a Post Pandemic Economy. And it found that 1 in 3 Americans have the potential to access higher income occupations if provided with access to training and new skills, exactly what you talked about. Make it available to all. The study also found that technical skills are twice as likely to be associated with high income occupations compared to other skills. All those things, Professor Schwab, that you outlined were all in that family. And I think that's very promising. In the US alone, Accenture estimates 33 million American reskilled workers could transition into new jobs. And I think that's really amazing, which means higher earning potential in different sectors. So I think everything that WEF is doing in partnerships with all the companies you bring together can help us really do that to make it a reality. Uh, Professor Schwab, I love when I go to the World Economic Forum and all your programming because technology is really at the heartbeat of all that and how you use it and how you create a mission. And technology can be a powerful tool to democratize access to learning opportunity. How can we make sure that the path forward, again, benefits the many and not just the few? What are some of the things that we can be doing there?
Yes, I think the best here are several factors. One is that education is not just a task for governments, it's a task for public-private cooperation. We have to join together because traditionally, very often, education and the provision of skills was regarded as a government task. But today, I think it's a joint task of governments and business. It's the best, let's say, example for the need for public-private cooperation. Second, I think we have to make sure that we provide those learning opportunities inside companies, but also outside companies. So it's really a hybrid approach. And we provide, I would say, in an ideal world, everybody should be certified regularly on the upskilling that he creates a proof for his own upskilling. So we have really a pathway to lifelong learning, to acquire the skills and then to rely for his whole or her whole life on those skills is not sufficient anymore.
Yeah. So true. During COVID, it's been interesting, Professor Schwab. We've seen more of our customers The workers take advantage of our online learning classes. We have over 500 free, and just they jumped on because of that time that they had virtually. And I think they said, I need to freshen my skills, I need to learn new things. And the key is accessibility to all, and I think that is something that we've still got to work on around the world, because we know that is not happening yet. I want to vector with you just a little bit on insights for the future, Professor Schwab. Um, you, I mean, I can't even imagine getting in your brain with all the amazing leaders that you've met and talked to around the world, and you've met so many ones that are so influential over your career. Can you talk to our reInvent audience about some of the common characteristics that you've seen among leaders and what they're doing right now to navigate these turbulent times?
As a professor for business policy, of course, I have looked at many books which describe what the ideal leadership means. But for me, I have learned it's a very simple way to define leadership. You need four things. You need brains, you need soul, you need heart, and you need muscles. So you may ask, what does it mean? Of course, the brain stands for professionalism. It stands that for having the right skills for what your task requires. But that's not enough. You need also the soul, and the soul stands for the direction. Today, you cannot plan anymore the future in a detailed way. Um, so because it's very difficult to predict the future. But you have to know what the direction is. You have to have certain values. You have to have certain visions. So you know you have a compass built into yourself, which shows you in which direction you have to go. The heart. You have to be passionate about what you are doing, because without passion, you will never succeed. If you take, for example, a learning program as an obligation, and you feel not passionate about reinventing yourself all the time, I think you are not a leader. And finally, you need the muscles. Um, you have to translate into reality, into action, into impact, your ideas, your professionalism. And I think the muscles are a very good metaphor, because the muscles means you implement, but you adapt continuously. And today, um, exploring, adapting is key. So it's very simple: brains, soul, heart, and muscles.
Okay, I took notes through that entire thing. I believe you're so spot on. And those are not terms, by the way, Professor Schwab, you usually hear very much for leadership capabilities. And I think that you're spot on. And, it's interesting. I think again, COVID has taught us all. We've learned a lot from this, and we're going to come out of this, I think, leading in different ways. But I think definitely brain, soul, heart, and muscle will be a big part of what leaders now will be paying attention to. Professor Schwab, what do you expect to see in 2021? Is there some guidance that you could give leaders to provide insurance that governments and organizations can rise to the challenge of a great reset?
21 will still be a year of uncertainty. Of course, we have the rolling out of vaccines, but there are still many questions. So we have to cope with a very uncertain environment. And here we should not forget that despite confronting still this virus, we have to plan for the future. Because we have to create now the framework for the future. We have to create the guidelines. And those have to be based on the concept of reinventing, resetting ourselves. So I hope that governments come together next year. And this, of course, also requires the willingness to cooperate better on a global level, because the virus has shown us also our global interconnectivity. I mean, Amazon is
Mhm.
a good example for interconnectivity. So governments could learn. We have to take care in our responses to the fact that at the end we are all members of a global community and we depend each on another.
Yeah, so true. And I love that you used reinvent, because that's really what this is about, is we really help organizations reinvent themselves through the use of great technology for their mission. Professor Schwab, do you have, as the organizational world leaders, I know there's going to be a lot watching this session today. As they finalize their 2021 plans, do you have some go dos for them, some actions that they should be taking away from this conversation?
I think there are two keywords which I would have in mind. The first is curiosity, and the second is resilience. Um, Life, we should not forget, despite the crisis, is something which is wonderful. Um, we are not yet robots. We can be creative. Um, but in order to be creative, we have to do the learning. And in order to do the learning and to expand our horizon continuously, we have to have a built-in curiosity. We have to be passionate about learning. And the passion comes from being curious of what's happening in the world. So we should not be overwhelmed by the information we are getting. We should try to learn from this information and expand our horizons. So it's for me, what drives me is, and I'm now 82 years old and feel young. And when people ask me, why do you feel young? I say, because I'm constantly curious. And the second one is resilience. Um, what is the key ingredient of resilience? It is actually the positive energy which we have to cultivate in ourselves. And where does the positive energy comes from? It comes from not losing time with negative things. And particularly now, during the Corona crisis, the COVID-19 crisis, we are exhausted. But and we try to focus on everything which is going not so well. But actually, um, what what gives us the energy is to construct the future. And in order to construct the future, and let me end with this here, responding to your question, to construct the future, it requires permanent reinvention, permanent resetting.
It does. And you really tagged on to something we talk a lot about, which are builders, and allowing your employees and you to be builders of enterprises, of new solutions, new tooling. And we like to tell our customers, be flexible, curious, experiment, and move fast. And so, Professor Schwab, we've talked a lot today about the future, education, where it's going, what we can be doing differently, how we can operate in public-private partnerships. And I think there's a lot our audience is going to be able to take away from our discussion. But before I let you get off here, I have to ask you: is there anything you can tell us about 2021 World Economic Forum that we can be excited about as we hope for the future of post COVID?
Yes, I'm just back from Singapore, and it is my ambition to organize the first in person global leadership summit again, because there is a need to come together. We all have gone through many, sometimes tiring, sometimes exciting, like here, video conferencing. We can transmit knowledge, we can transmit information, maybe even in a more efficient way through video conferencing. But physical meetings give us the opportunity to build trust. And the most required ingredient which we need for the future building of a harmonious world is trust. And trust can only come from personal interaction. So the exciting thing is that we, from in May next year, we have the ambition to be the first who will organize again an in-person summit, global leadership summit in Singapore. So, and I hope with this summit, we will make a major contribution to global cooperation and to make sure that global leaders, political leaders and business leaders and civil societies leaders jointly address the big challenges which we have in our world.
Well, let me tell you, Singapore is a beautiful city. They're a fantastic customer of ours, so I look forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun and a very different location than Davos for sure, where we have beautiful cold weather and get to wear our winter gear. This will be more summer gear. So, Professor Schwab, what an amazing honor to have you here. You're such a young 82-year-old. You've done so much for the growth of the world, the economy, bringing leaders together. And just, I want to thank you again so much for your time to talk to our reInvent audience here at AWS.
It was a pleasure, Teresa Carlson, to be with you, and looking forward to see you at the latest in Singapore. And if not, then in 22 in Davos again.
Perfect. Thank you again. Everybody enjoy our fireside chat here at reInvent.